So this one is called Back to the Light, I think. Is that right? Sounds about right. Here we go then. A 1, 2.
I think close enough. Yeah, okay. So this next one is called "Tired of Being Alone." Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for listening, everyone in here too. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Memories uncovered, gone around and rediscovered. Yesterday is now tomorrow. Free from the warm desire, the tree that becomes a fire. Pathways get overgrown when you're tired of being alone. Free from your warm desire, the tree that becomes a fire. Pathways get overgrown when you're tired of being alone. Seasons go, summer nights with the sky aglow, falling leaves on the ground below. Let's walk outside in the falling snow. Come with me, watch the seasons grow, summer nights with the sky aglow, falling leaves on the ground below. Let's walk outside in the falling snow. Come with me, watch the seasons go, summer nights with the sky aglow, falling leaves on the ground below. Let's walk outside in the falling snow. Come with me, watch the seasons go, summer nights with the sky aglow, falling leaves on the ground below. Let's walk outside in the falling snow.
From the archive, that was Delta 5 and Colour, which I will dedicate to Norman Blake because he's obviously enjoying that very much indeed. Teenage Fan Club, welcome back to the programme.
Well, it's nice to be here, Mark. Thanks for having us.
A real pleasure. So before we go any further, Norman, would you like to introduce your bandmates, please?
Okay, yeah, hopefully I'll get this right, because I've spent the last 30 years working with them. But no, so on bass here, Dave McGowan.
Yep.
Hello.
Hello, mate.
Okay, on drums, Francis McDonald.
Yep.
Hello.
Hello.
On the keyboards, there's Eros Childs.
Oh, yeah.
And behind me here is Raymond McGinley.
Hello.
Most certainly.
me here. No.
Fabulous. Okay then. And so, and we were also supposed to be in the company of a certain Sweet Baboo tonight, weren't we?
Yeah. Steve was going to be playing with us tonight, but unfortunately he couldn't be here. So,
He'll be joining you for the tour.
He's on
won't
the tour with us. Yeah, so he's going to be opening the playing before us and then playing with us. So that's going to be great.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, obviously, if you see anything written about the Teenage Fan Club, whether it be Wikipedia, which can often be fraught with danger, or like reviews or anything, it always says harmonious Scottish group, right?
Oh, it does, yeah.
Now you've upset the apple cart with introducing Eros into the frame, of course, some Welsh blood.
Two Welshmen in the band now, yeah.
And then Sweet Baboo as well.
Yeah,
so they're going to have to rewrite the history books, aren't they?
I guess so, yeah. But yeah. Well, I don't know. But no, Eros and the rest of us go back years and years because Gorky's Eros' old band, we played together, toured together, and then I actually stood in a guitar for a tour, didn't I?
You did indeed, yeah.
That too, and then
not forgetting Johnny
and Johnny, the band that myself and Eros had. So yeah, and we've known Steve for a long time as well. So it feels like
one big happy family.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so your new album, Nothing Lasts Forever.
Yeah.
Okay, is that kind of is it an optimistic refrain or is it pessimistic? Because it could be either.
Yeah, I think it's optimistic. I think it's partly ironic as well, and the fact that we're still around after all this time. We're still plugging away, doing our thing, and feeling really good about it too. So it's I think this is an album number 11. So and a couple of compilations as well. So yeah,
sure,
it's all good.
Yeah, and you went to Rockfield to record.
We did.
Yeah, you've not been there for a while.
Well, we haven't, but we love it there because Kingsley. Well, it was actually it's the first residential studio in the world, apparently.
Really?
Yep. Bohemian Rhapsody was written there. And also, Kingsley Ward, who owns the place, is amazing. He recorded with Joe Meek, him and his brother. Joe Meek produced a record for them and stuff. So, and yeah, everyone's been there. Iggy Pop, Hawkwind, tons of artists. But it's just a great environment, and it's still a working farm as well. In fact, we were there. It was on Country File when we were there. Kingsley was being interviewed. They were on Country File.
Really?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Was it not some shots of you walking behind him in wellies?
No, we didn't quite make that. But Kingsley was walking around pretending that he was a farmer or whatever. But yeah, it was. Anyway, it was amazing. It was good to. I was watching Country File with my folks because they like that, and I said that's a studio.
We've been there.
We've made a couple of albums. Yeah.
Was that so? I mean, I can imagine. Like, you know what parents are like, don't you? I mean, it's like they'd be more impressed with that than getting on top of the pops later on.
Absolutely. Yeah. They loved that. So, but yeah, no. So we're great. We were there maybe, I don't know, quite a while ago, but we finished all at Raymond's place. Did all the vocals and stuff there, and so yeah, I think we're trying to be sort of more productive than we have been, because what happens is if you're around for a long time, you end up sort of like having 5-year gaps between albums, which is kind of daft, because you spend a lot of time just sitting around at home not doing anything. So we're kind of thinking, well, let's.
Well, if you look at somebody like Ty Segall, he says that he's not going to release a record for 2 years, and then all he does is release a record under a different name, 4 months later. So there's always that option for you. But
there is that, I suppose. Yeah.
But so the album, Raymond, you actually described it as melancholic.
Yeah. Well, I'm going back to what you're saying about the album title being, is it pessimistic or optimistic? I think the idea Nothing Lasts Forever is kind of accepting of there's a melancholy, that kind of mood that probably we kind of like getting into when you're writing songs or whatever, but it's also accepting the finite nature of existence, but saying that's fine as well, but enjoy, try and make an album, sit on it every 5 years, because you're only getting so many opportunities.
Yeah, there was a very poignant statement, it might have been and I'm not 100% sure, about you just finding yourself going to get the black suit out the closet on more occasions as you get older, which is a strange thing, isn't it? Because I remember watching my dad and his circle of friends, and they all just kind of dropped away one by one.
Yeah.
And then, of course, as you get older,
starts to happen,
I'm older than you, but I mean, as you get older, that kind of enters your own world, doesn't it?
It does, it does. And I guess there's just part of just an acceptance of that. You become accustomed to that happening more often.
Yeah, sure. Okay. And so, you weren't 100% sure of what you were going to do when you went into the studio, were you? We never
are. We tend to go in and just kind of do it there. We don't have any sort of pre-production. We don't really rehearse before we go in. We just get in, either Raymond or myself will just say, okay, here's the tune, and then we just work it out together, and then like 4 hours later something is recorded, and then we move on to the next one.
Right, okay. So what are the chances of you tipping up and then you're all looking at each other and thinking, right, let's make a really angry, noisy album?
Oh, it's possible.
It could happen.
Yeah. You need get some proper tension going in the studio.
I can do that for you if you want. Just
wrestling or something like that. I don't know. But, yeah.
I mean, obviously you toured with Nirvana, didn't you?
We did, yeah. We did the Nevermind tour.
Yeah.
It was the European leg of that. It was amazing because you're sort of witnessing this phenomenon. We were a tiny part of it, but it was incredible to be around that. Just because when the tour started. I mean, I've got a really strong memory of. Some of my strongest memories are kind of things like us all being in Stockholm and sitting like in a sort of public park, like a kids' park or whatever, with Nirvana, eating ice cream. Everyone had like a cone or whatever you call it. Like an ice cream cone. We're all just hanging out. Those are the kind of things that stick in my mind, but I think they were kind of overwhelmed by the madness of what was happening around them.
I was going to say, I mean, the word Maelstrom does spring to mind because obviously you being alongside them at that point in time, was it either kind of gripping or was it a little bit terrifying for you? Because it must have been terrifying, as you say, for them. Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't for us. We were just on the periphery of the whole thing, we were we'd do our set and we'd be off stage and sort of milling about. But yeah, for them, I think it was quite overwhelming. They'd gone from in just a few months playing fairly small crowds to massive crowds, and that's actually when we've not done that very often. Festivals. The funny thing about playing to a big crowd is that there's it's real anonymity thing that happens. It becomes smaller crowds. The kind of intimacy you get from that's really exciting, and I think they probably realised we're never going to experience that again. And that playing in a band, that's the best feeling when you play in a small space and you can sort of see people. It's the
I think the Nirvana story really, and you would know better than I, kind of epitomises a be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, I don't think they liked being famous or whatever. I mean, I suppose Kurt would do things like they had Jad Fair and Daniel Johnson supporting them, so they'd do things like that. But I think, say for example, Jad was opening, or half Japanese were opening for Nirvana, and the crowd would be totally booing them, and so Kurt really hated that, so I don't think they were entirely comfortable with the level of fame, but they were great. I mean, they were amazing live.
For a three-piece band doing those really big shows, they performed really well. It wasn't like they couldn't, carry that into that kind of environment or whatever. But those shows were great. They were amazing. They were really powerful.
Yeah. Just thinking about it, I'm talking about Nirvana, it's more about the fannies. But of course, the strange thing is that he was besotted with Scottish music, wasn't he?
Eugene Kelly in particular, yeah.
There was the Vaseline, but also you guys and the BMX. Didn't he say that if he could be in any band in the world, it'd be BMX Bandits?
Well, yeah, that's apparently a quote. But I think Eugene was the guy that he really loved, And in fact, the Vaselines, they asked the Vaselines to reform. And I was actually the other person in the room when Eugene met Kurt Cobain for the first time.
Right.
And it was incredible. It was we'd gone through and just me and Eugene were in the back of the van. I remember we were drinking cheap wine, and we got to the venue in Edinburgh and we met Kristen Novoselic, and he said, "Oh yeah, nice to meet you. Kurt's upstairs." And we go upstairs into the dressing room, and it was Kurt was wearing that really heavy eyeliner. And I remember turning around and looking at Eugene, and he said, "Wow, Eugene Kelly! I can't believe I'm meeting Eugene Kelly." Amazing, And they became friends from that point. And obviously we got to know them pretty well as well.
Right. Okay, yeah, sure. Amazing. I mean, enough of Nirvana. We've never spoken about that before.
No, we haven't, but so it's nice to be able to do that, actually, so...
Cool. And also, I mean, I don't want to start a fight within the band, but I think it was a Scotsman who did describe you, Norman, as the greatest living Scottish songwriter. Raymond, what have you got to say to that, then?
Well, as Ewan McComb said that, I think, didn't
he? Yeah, Ewan, who wrote that, is a friend of mine, so that but it was very nice of him to do that.
Right.
It didn't cost me that much.
Fair enough. So, okay. Yeah. All right then. So as we mentioned, you have got a tour, and so we now then lead Crash Records at Key Club, and that's a 40-minute full band show on the 27th, so a couple of days' time. Are you working tomorrow at all?
We're in London, Rough Trade East.
That's sold out though, isn't it?
I think, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, moving on then to November. You're playing Belfast, Queen's University, Glasgow, Tramway Theatre, Aberdeen, Tivoli Theatre, Edinburgh, Assembly Rooms, Leeds, Broodnell. Some of these, well, a lot of them sold out actually. Gateshead Sage Hall 2, Manchester Royal Northern College of Music, Sheffield Leadmill, Bath Comedia, Birmingham Town Hall, 2 nights at Earth in London, and Sweet Baboo will be the support. So I'm going to shut up now and let you play 3 tunes back to back. So what tunes are you going to play in what order?
Okay, now see, I always forget the names of the songs. This one's called
See the Light first.
See the Light. Then after that, we're going to be playing
Back to the Light.
Back to the Light. And then
it's like a ventriloquist act. This you got Raymond behind Norman.
I've been working it for years.
What's the last one again? Oh God, what's that? Tired of Being Alone is the last one.
I don't know why I made you suffer that, because I've gotten written all in front of me anyway. I enjoyed that.
Really, working that. But thanks for having us.
An absolute pleasure, always. Teenage Fan Club live in session.
Okay, well, I better turn this.